Hello and welcome to the Random Thought Show. My name's Jacob Tober.
And my name's Durham McInnes. On the show we talk about anything and everything in fitness, high performance and health.
Welcome back to Random Thoughts.
Hi guys.
I'm pretty crushed today. We finally jibbed us. We jinxed it.
We didn't. Yeah.
I like to think that was the only reason. It's not.
Yeah, so the Boomers went down and missed out on the bronze. Had we talked on the podcast since we missed out on the gold medal match?
No. This podcast went live the morning of the Spain game, which we also lost.
That was an amazing game. That was so intense.
Awesome game of basketball.
My kids were watching it with me, and they haven't watched that much sport where they deeply care about a result. And
they're invested. They're in.
They're in because they're excited because they know Jock trains with us, and they know, they know I know a few players, and they just they're excited about it.
Sensed the tone,
and it was just they really got into it, and they got really tense. Like Max had never experienced it before. Like at one point he just jumped up and he just kind of jumped and then did a belly flop on the floor. It's like, ah! Like, it was really,
I don't know what to do with these emotions.
Yeah, he couldn't get to sleep for hours.
It was pretty tense.
So double overtime, and unfortunately a loss. An exhausting, energy sapping, physiologically, emotionally, neurologically. Yeah,
I was exhausted. I don't know how the players felt. I hadn't played a minute. I was sitting home in Melbourne, Australia, and I was exhausted watching the game over in Beijing.
Yeah. And then there's that ongoing fatigue of what might have been, which is really hard on a team. So
because you lose the semi-final, and the commentators talked about it at length. But in 48 hours after you lose a semi-final, you then have to back up for a grading game, effectively for third place. Yeah. But there's still silverware, bronzeware on the line.
Yeah.
And so you still want that medal.
You want it badly. Like it's still a really big deal. Shane Hill talked about how you actually never get over those losses. It's just they still hurt. 10 years later, just a bugger. So anyway,
but the whole tournament brings up a really interesting discussion around tournaments in general, which we've talked about before, but I'm sure we'll touch on them again today. But also that concept of what you really noticed and what, having spoken to you this morning about, we really noticed was the neural fatigue that the players, not just Australia, but in particular Australia, because they played the extra minutes, the neural fatigue they showed in that bronze medal game, what caused it. I'm sure they did a lot of this stuff.
They would have been doing everything possible.
And sometimes it's just you're just exhausted. There's nothing left to do.
Yeah, I think one of the things is going to be that it's just, no matter what you do, if you're playing at that level of intensity and that emotional intensity, I think that's going to be an extra load on you. But I think the fatigue had actually already kicked in the double over before, even early on in that double overtime game against Spain. When you saw Aaron Baines go up for a dunk and get rim blocked, it's like, wow, his system is tired. Yeah.
Yeah. So today, I suppose we should unpack what is neural fatigue, what happened to the Boomers, what you can do at home to stop it happening to you. And so on.
Less what happened to the Boomers. That's I don't think we should.
I feel like I need to. I think that's some counselling here in the form of a podcast.
I think what it does, it does represent an opportunity to chat about that. So one of the things that happens in tournaments.
Before we do that, let's just jump to an Iron Edge pro tip.
Cool.
And then we'll be straight back.
Hey guys, it's Jacob here on the gym floor with another Iron Edge pro tip. When we think about high-performing programs, athletes are doing everything they can to get the most out of their bodies. Foam rolling is one of the most common tricks we use, or tools that we use, to help our athletes take an active role in their recovery so they can get more out of their body, accelerate that recovery, and then improve their performance in the short term, but also in the long term with that chronic effect it has on tissues. Now, one of the newer things that's come out in the foam rolling space is the use of vibration technologies. And we've got 3 toys here that we're going to show, but I think when it comes to using these vibration technologies, it's making sure we're not just treating them like gimmicks and actually using them how they should be used to get the most out of them not just playing around with them every now and again, but on a consistent, regular basis. The first tool is a vibrating foam roller. Just looks exactly like a foam roller, but you press the button on the end, or you press it a few times, and you can create different frequencies of vibration through the roller. Now, we just use this like a normal roller. So you do your normal rolling routine, but use the vibration to dig a little deeper and get into those adhesions and those trigger points. So just roll as you normally would. What's nice about the vibration though is if you go a little slower you can use less effort and use the vibration to do most of the work for you. So you don't have to do the work running up and down the roller with your arms and with your legs. You can just let the vibration go to work, moving a little slower through the muscles. Our next tool is called the Theragun. This guy, again, has multiple speeds, 5 speeds, and it's got different head attachments, so you can get either specifically in, or like we've got here with the larger ball, you can get a more broad roll. What's nice about the Theragun is handheld, obviously, so you can be more specific with it, and also you can hit those hard to reach places that the vibrating roller doesn't get. So VMO is a great example. You can turn that volume up, get a little more intensity into it, and then work through your VMO right next to that patella to loosen it off. You can do the same through tib post, and then maybe on yourself, or if you get a friend to do it for you, you can get through your upper traps, rotator cuff, pec minor, areas like that. So those areas that are a little trickier to hit with a regular roller, the Theragun comes in great handy for that. The other one that comes in handy for hitting those hard to reach places is the ball, so the vibrating massage ball. Same thing, just press the button, turn it on, multiple speeds, and then you find the spot that you want to hit. Great for glute med, great for TFL. And what's nice about the ball compared to the Theragun for hitting isolated spots is you can really rest into the ball, and you can put some weight into it and relax down into the ball, have it resting against the ground, and then switch off and relax. If you want to get these vibrating tools to incorporate them into your training program, we have an exclusive offer with the guys at Iron Edge. Follow the link in our bio on Instagram and use the code word VibrateCA when you check out to save $85 on exactly this pack here. Vibrating foam roller, vibrating massage ball, and the Theragun as well.
One of the things that, so coming back to tournament play, one of the things that I've noticed over the years is that if you think of a graph of a team's cohesion, harmony, and just knowing their level of locked-inness.
The level of teaminess.
Their teaminess, generally...
Across all, and this is all sports, so not just basketball anymore.
Generally, that will go up across the course of a tournament. They will gel better. They'll know the spots. They'll get better and better. But there's also that's a positive line. The other trend line, though, is that typically their level of freshness will diminish as the tournament wears on.
As you're playing a game every day, or in juniors, you're playing multiple games a day, you get fatigued. As you gel, you get tired.
So in a perfect world, what you want to do is you obviously still want that gelling to be occurring, but you want to minimize your drop-off of freshness. You want to be physically peaking or at least not diminishing as much towards the business end of the tournament.
Maintaining your physiology to keep up your team psychology.
Yeah, and I think there's heaps that you can do. There's heaps that the average team does wrong, and there's heaps that you can do to enhance that. Nutrition's really obvious.
Before we talk about the actual answers, should we actually talk about, just for a little bit, dive into the science of what's actually going on when you're fatiguing?
Yes, let's do that.
Because because people talk about fatigue in terms of acute and chronic, and they talk about fatigue in terms of neural versus peripheral. But it's really this whole cocktail of fatigue. It's a mishmash of things going on.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing is over a tournament, you just become subtly or extremely glycogen depleted over the course of your number of games. So if you're playing a sport like basketball, netball, soccer, hockey, anything that's going to require lactic type effort, you're going to burn through you're going to be pretty much on empty at the end of each game.
You burn through a truckload of glycogen.
Enormous amounts of
quickly.
glycogen.
What was the stat? Some ridiculous stat around 3 sets of 12 squats.
It's 5 sets of 10 at an 80% of 1RM, which is like a 12 type effort. So you've got, it's not training to failure by any stretch. But 5 sets of 10 is enough to burn through, I think, 60% of your leg glycogen, your quadricep glycogen.
It's crazy.
It's 5 sets. That's it. 50 reps.
Yeah, we burn through it quick.
And so you think about how many max effort jumps and lateral slides and sprints and accelerations, decelerations, all that stuff that's going on in these team-based sports. At the end of a game, you are completely empty. The tank is on E, for sure.
And the ability to refuel that tank is problematic because it takes about 48 hours to get it right back up.
Yep. And so that means if you go into game one at 100%, next game, even if you do the right refueling, you go into the next game 95%, 94%, and then the next
Could
one
even be lower.
It could be lower, and then you've got travel in there as well, and you've got team X's and O's sessions, and you've got other stuff and other commitments, and then you're not sleeping in your own bed. We'll talk about sleep in a second, but each game you're just going from 100, 94, 88,
and
82.
And so there's a range of possibilities, but you could quite well be starting the gold medal game
2 weeks later. Yeah,
you could quite well be starting that game at a 70% full tank or full battery, however you want to think of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, which is, and often you'll hear players talk about how they ran out of legs late in the third or early in the fourth. And it's not that they weren't fit; they just kind of ran out of petrol. I suspect is often a thing.
Yeah, because the fitness is the quality of the car, but you need to have the fuel in the tank to be able to use that. Like you can have the most gorgeous car ever, but if it's on an empty tank, it's a useless car.
That was a good analogy.
I got an analogy in. All right, let's keep moving. Let's not dwell on it. No, I'll tighten up. So glycogen stores are a really big deal.
That's really important.
One of the most important things you can do for your glycogen stores is your post-game, post-competition window. Getting quick carbs in straight away.
Quick carbs. The Gator Shake is one of our favourites. And I think it's important. It's going to depend massively on personal preference, what kind of way. It might not be quick carbs. Some people, they want to get fat into them. There's all sorts of different philosophies, but it's just getting a good amount of food into you. I think ideally it's going to be carbs and protein and easy to absorb protein.
If you're playing an anaerobic sport, it's got to be carbs.
But it's interesting, like in footy, a lot of the teams are just like giving them hot dogs after the game because it's just like we know the players don't want to eat. So Collingwood, for instance, they're hot dogs and party pies. Last time I heard,
pizza's a pretty common one as well. This is in a situation though when they don't have to turn around in 48 hours.
Yes,
I think that changes things.
I think it does. I think you're right. I think you've got to get stuff that can be really rapidly assimilated.
And this also speaks to something which we'll talk about soon, which is like the intensity of that World Cup and the intensity of the Soccer World Cup and the Olympics and big events like that, where it's like. It's like you lose, you're out. That's it. You go home. There is no second chance. These players have been playing the NBA, the NBL, Europe, where you have an 82-game season, and every game, it's 20,000 people. That's a big deal, but it's not do or die.
Yeah, the do or die. I mean, it's always been one of my objections to the NBA about the 7-game series. That how you can actually have all these players who've barely been exposed to do or die because they get up early, they get a bit of a lead.
And you can stink for 2 games and still win a championship.
Yeah, whereas I don't think it's a bit like like battle where you've got 3 lives up your sleeve.
I quite like the soccer system where it's 2 games combined score. Can't do this for basketball, but they do one at your venue, one at our venue, and it's combined score. So if you go up 2-0 and they go up 2-0, it's actually a draw, and then you have to keep going from there. So that's a clever system. But the point is that when you play at these more cutthroat type events with single game meaning everything, an emotional stress is going to burn a lot more energy. There's a lot more anxiety involved in the situation.
Well, let's close out the food thing, and then because the emotional thing is humongous as well. So you want to get great quality food in. You want to get I think the ideal is probably the Gator Shake and some lollies is probably the best thing. And we've written an article which we can link about that a long time ago.
So you need fast digesting carbs and fast digesting protein as well to recover your muscles. Yeah, I'm just writing the Gator Shake.
Yep. Yeah, nice. Should we talk about So the thing that happens is there's the tank element. I think we've covered off that, and then there's this just tightening up of your body element. Is that the next?
Elaborate. I'm not quite with you yet.
So you start the week, you start the tournament with a fairly fresh body. If you've been well prepared, you're well tapered, you're ready to go. Your muscles are in good condition. Everything's working nicely. There's nothing really hurting. You feel pretty good.
Yep.
You play the first game. There's a little bit of post-game tightness and soreness. You're right.
We're talking muscular tightness.
Yeah, like your right glute med might be a little bit tight.
Sure. Yep.
You play the second game. It's now a tiny bit tighter because it's a bit more. It's taking more load. And
right. So you're talking about the accumulation of niggles, effectively.
Yeah, or even pre-niggles, like just that accumulation of suboptimum range of motion and performance in joints.
Weariness, accumulation of weariness.
Yeah. So I think that's a real thing that happens a hell of a lot. And you end up just feeling pretty, sore and tired by the time you're at the business end of things. And I think there's that, so that needs to be attended to. Should we talk about that now, or do you want to?
Well, you're in now. Let's just keep going. You can't tease. You can't get me on the same page and then just jump away.
Well, I want to talk about this really interesting rolling article that we read as well. Yeah, because I think they all tie in.
Because neural fatigue it's a bit
let's jump around a little. Talk neural first.
Yeah. Well, no, it's all connected. This is what I was trying to say was all these things, like there's no big rock for neural fatigue. There's no big rock for chronic fatigue. It's a bit hydration, it's a bit nutrition, it's a bit sleep, it's a bit rolling, it's a bit tension. Like there's so many factors. So let's just bounce around and go with it. Yeah.
So we read a great article from June of this year by Dr. Wilkie Dr. Bem and Wilkie, and the article title is "Do Self-Myofascial Release Devices Release Myofascia? Rolling Mechanisms: A Narrative Review." It's one of the best articles I reckon I've read. It's simple. It's explaining some complex things in a reasonably nuanced way. I really liked it.
It's a good review of this whole thing of we call rolling self-myofascial release.
Or SMR.
SMR. And this article just goes, well, is it? And it dives into the science. And should we just give the answer?
Let's give away the answer.
The answer
we'll put a link to this as well.
The answer is in the acute, not really. There's not really much fascial tension changing in terms of myofascial release. You're getting a slight warming of the muscle, you're getting some blood flow, all these things. But the number one name we give it isn't really what it's doing.
What it is doing is something that I think is fascinating, which is it's having an effect at a neural level. I think to understand that, you've got to talk a little bit. We talked about that tight glute med and that trigger point idea, which has been initially discredited, and it's sort of being recredited now. They're now accepting that they're
kind of bouncing around on this one.
Yeah, but there are like one of the terms was what's in here? It was a term that hypersensitive. So not calling them trigger points, but hypersensitive tender spots. Yeah. Seems a little semantic.
For those at home, let's call those trigger points from now on in. Yeah.
But it's the idea that as it says here, when fascia become dehydrated.
We're a podcast now that quotes studies.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, go with it.
Just a little.
I'm on board.
When fascia becomes dehydrated, diminishing its elasticity, myofascia can bind around the injured regions, leading to fibrous adhesions. These adhesions may induce hypersensitive tender spots. So that's really an explanation of the mechanism of a trigger point.
Yeah, that is neural tonicity, and there's a beautiful tangent with the tangent here is that the dehydration factor is a really big deal when it comes to tissue quality, which is therefore going to affect the nervous system's ability to create action potentials and fire contractions.
And what it explains, which I think is a great read for a lot of people, is the way in which the tightness, so the body is sensing the tightness in the area, and then it's going to down-regulate the strength signal.
Not just the tightness, but the lack of neural flow and the lack of oxygen. So it's because of the dehydration, there's going to be less red blood cells in the area, less oxygen delivery.
So it's an inhibitory response. And what this found was, sorry about the sound of paper, was the advantages of rolling are that they do not subsequently impair muscle strength. They can also actually help with strength and power and neuromuscular efficiency.
The knots impair power, but the foam rolling helps with those things.
Yeah.
Sorry, there's a little bit of...
Yep, sorry. I didn't say it very clearly. Yeah, really interesting. And so it's this idea that I think for too long it's been, you're just loosening off that tight spot.
It's not just...
It is doing a bit of that.
This is the problem with the term like SMR, self-myofascial release, and the term stretching is people just think, it says stretching, it is stretching. And I think it's just too much of a simplification in terms of stretching is actually it's telling your muscle spindles it's okay to be in this range of motion. It really is a form of neuromuscular training in terms of it's okay to be at this length. Don't panic, don't freak out, Golgi tendons switch off. And it's the same with release work, rolling. Really, we're sending a signal to the nervous system that says, hey, this tissue isn't happy right now. Let's just get some friction in there, get some blood flow, get everything loosened back up, and it's okay to activate this again.
And then now that glute med, that right glute med as the example, can operate better, and therefore that athlete can run better and jump better because you've got in there and you've told the system, you've loosened things up a little, but you've also told the system, feel free to use this muscle well. I think that's that breaking down of that inhibitory response. I think is a really important thing.
Yeah, because through the proprioceptive feedback that we get from our peripheral nervous system. Yeah.
So you're switching it off in order for it to be switched on. Yeah.
The conclusion of this bit here is that foam rolling has an incredible effect, not just on your acute range of motion and warming up and delivering blood flow and tissue and stuff like that, but chronically it can help your nervous system do its job on a global sense in terms of everything's working nicely, but also in a specific sense, like your right glute med's a little tight. You roll it out, you release it, it can then function better, which is going to lead to better activation, better stability, less valgus, less wear and tear on your knee. And those little 1%ers they accumulate over whether it be a career or in this case a 2-week tournament.
Yeah, and being 1% worse, it doesn't sound like much, but if it's affecting a fine motor skill like a jump shot, if you're not quite getting as much power.
Or a power thing like getting a dunk down.
Yeah. Can we talk a little bit about the systemic benefit too in terms of the rest? I think that's an important thing. So you play an incredibly intense game. You are adrenalized. You are in full fight or flight mode. And what you need is, in a perfect world, is as rapidly as possible to be able to be shunted back into rest and digest, recovery.
You need a no side effect sleeping pill.
Yeah. And foam rolling is a part of that solution, because what it's doing is it's telling your whole system, it's helping tell your whole system to relax, calm down. It's actually, having an effect on that as well.
In the same way that when you do a yoga class, you finish the yoga and you're all sleepy and kind of relaxed and a bit dopey, foam rolling is a quicker and even more effective method to that, because you're getting the advantages of the pressure on the tissue.
So if you do that combined with some ice bathing, I think you're really going to double down on your parasympathetic sort of shunting, I suppose, and then you're in a pretty good place. So that's what I was thinking about rolling, that it's underrated. It does more than people realise. There's lots of conjecture over which is the best way to roll. Do I hold it for 10 seconds? Do I drill into a spot? Do I do this? I'm kind of like, as long as you're not shying away from the sore spots, as long as you're searching them out.
Even before, as long as you're not shying away, as long as you're doing it daily. Whatever method you choose,
Do it daily.
Do it daily, ideally before and after each game, especially in a tournament situation as well.
Yeah, one of the trends is to people to, it's a bit of a pissing contest over who's got the hardest, firmest roller.
Yeah,
I don't agree with that at all. You want to get a roller that gives you, I think the ones with some form of sort of shapes on them are good, because they're going to
some nodules or something like that. Yeah.
But the hardest one, what matters is how much you put into the rolling. So if it's really, really hard, you're going to not roll very much because it hurts and you're not going to get the benefit.
Yeah, in my old age, I've gotten a better roll now with a slightly padded one. So I used to be on the PVC pipe.
Yeah,
I'm on the pipe. Yeah.
I was all excited about the pipe for a while. I don't think, no.
It's a young man's game. It's not for me anymore. But yeah, I'll sit longer on my softer roller now and do more rolling that way.
You get more benefits. And you dive in harder. I think you tend to, you'll sit on a nasty point for longer. Whereas on a hard roller, you skate over that.
And you kind of tense up as well.
I can't call it a trigger point, can I? What have I got to call it? You skate over that hypersensitive tender spot.
I do, yeah. Whereas with the softer roller, you're more likely to, and it comes back to neural factors as well. If you're tense on the roller, how can the tension relax? Because you're actively now holding on to the tension,
which is fighting. It's an arm wrestle.
So so you want to be relaxed and chilled out into it.
And that brings us to an interesting area that is still underexplored, which is the vibrating rollers and devices.
This paper touches on a bit. It talks about these sensitive, hypersensitive tender spots and tissue and proprioceptive nerve endings in general. They respond well to continued pressure, so constant, like a elbow in your butt type pressure. They also respond well to high frequency vibrating style pressures as well, which I found quite interesting.
We've been playing around with some vibrating rollers here. We've got the Iron Edge one, which is great, and obviously we're connected with those guys. You like the Theragun as well.
I love the Theragun. All about the gun.
I think
here's why. We didn't really touch on this before we got on there. I think it's a laziness thing. I think it's just I can hold it in one hand, sit on my side, put it into my glute med and just chill out. Whereas the other one requires me to hold myself up on the ball.
Stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. They're very popular. I want to be pretty straightforward. I was a little bit cynical about them. It just looked like, I don't know, it looked like a power tool.
Well, some of the original ones were literally jigsaws with balls on the end.
And I used it and found that I've always had a knot. I've had a kind of a ropey section in my left calf that's just never really gone away. I used it and that went away. But I had really significant DOMs for 3 days after the first time I used it. So
really?
Yeah, I think if you're going to use, this is the worry with this kind of thing, because we like dumbbell bench because it's self-limiting.
Yep. So the idea that you can only lift as much as you can get back in position with. Whereas barbell bench, you lift it out of the rack, you only find out halfway down that your spotter's got to do all the work to save you.
And so any form of rolling where you're holding yourself over the roller and rolling around on it.
And not being lazy.
Any form of that is a bit limited. It has a self-limiting element of how much you can be bothered.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly proves my point from before.
Whereas the danger is if you're a bit of a more is more person, you could get onto the...
Which a lot of athletes are, because that's what makes them good athletes, because they have good attention to detail and willingness to put up extra shots and get extra kicks and whatnot.
And so I think because the vibrating roller, the vibrating the Theragun, and the vibrating little ball, which I like more than you. I think that's good for getting into, and I've got older hips, so they respond more to it. I think the critical thing is to actually use some sort of a timer of how long you're going to do it. I don't think you should just go at it for. I think you need to actually be quite scientific and do it for a certain amount of time. I think to just do it while you're watching a television, you can find out like half an hour later.
Oh my God, I've done my VMO for 25 minutes and the battery's flat.
Yeah, so I worry about young tight athletes doing that, and really, I think
great point.
It's a brilliant tool, but it has to be used consistently but judiciously.
So we started this section talking about how long to roll, how to roll. Let's start with the vibrating. When you set up your core advantage interval timer with a custom built vibrating roller section.
Yes.
We'll start there and we'll go back to other forms of rolling and how you should best use it. How would you use something like the Theragun or the ball or the vibrating roller per section, per muscle group? How long would you go?
I would say no, like if I'm doing my left calf, say.
Which is ropey, as you just mentioned?
Not
anymore.
I'd limit that to 5 minutes.
I think 5?
I'm not saying you have to do 5.
I feel like that is a very dangerous recommendation.
Do you think?
Given I did like a minute on each spot yesterday with the gun just to play around with it.
Really?
And I've got sore tip posts from hitting them.
Okay. All right, this is good. This is a good conversation to have. Because I reckon that I did it for a bit long at the first. I really went at it because this feels amazing.
You did 15 minutes. So you think 5 is over?
So probably 1 minute.
I think 60 seconds, 45 to 60 seconds.
And just see how you're tolerating it.
If we're using the calf example and you've got the vibrating ball, for example, and you just start at the bottom, I would work my way up the middle for 20 seconds, the left side for 20 seconds, in the middle for 20 seconds.
Makes perfect sense. You're very wise.
5 minutes. Now who's danger blind? Goodness me. Yeah, so I think you'd set up a 60 second on 5 second rest and use your 5 second rest just to swap spots.
Yeah,
so
nice.
You do 60 seconds on your left calf, then your right calf, right hip, left hip, etc.
Okay, good.
Glad we got that sorted. 5 minutes. Goodness me. The vibration, we need to do a whole episode on vibration training and its various uses across the industry, because I'm old enough, I've been in the industry old enough to remember those vibrating plates that were advertised as...
There were whole gyms that were built like this. The whole gym was come in and do bodyweight squats on a vibrating platform. Yeah.
And so there were
have you ever done a squat on one?
Yeah, weird, very weird.
Yeah.
I used to go to a gym that had a couple of them.
Yeah.
This is at the time when people were talking about it as like a PAP type effect. Like you do that as a post-activation potentiation type thing. You'd do your 20 seconds of a vibrating ISO squat, then you'd go and do your heavy squat and it would wake you up. I think that's been debunked.
I don't know.
Oh, this is why we have to do some research before we do that episode and why we should move on now from vibration. But it's like it's been touted as a fat loss mechanism, a motor learning mechanism, a tendon mechanism. It's been done. Vibration is in a very interesting spot still, I think.
For that type of,
But what we've seen anecdotally is that from a tissue release point of view, it's fantastic.
So, I think the biggest benefit of it is the fact that it doesn't hurt. You can go harder at tissue without it hurting. I think you're actually going to just get in there and get it done. Because there's nothing as good as a skillful myotherapist digging the elbow in and really getting into tissues, causing them to release. But you can never apply, even if you had a robot that you were controlling that could dig into those spots, you can just you would never voluntarily apply the pressure that they apply to you. Because it just hurts.
You need a mean osteo, a mean myo, someone who just doesn't care that much.
Yeah, and I think the vibration effect actually means that you will be more likely to dive into it and chase more pressure.
It kind of masks the pressure by shaking a bit, effectively.
Yeah, I think so.
It's disguised pressure, which is pretty effective.
Yeah, which is pretty cool.
So let's get back on track now in terms of tournament neural fatigue. So we talked quick mid-episode summary. We talked sort of about nutrition and how if you don't have the fuel in the tank, you can't make those powerful contractions. Then we talked about recovery between games. And one of the big things you do is ice baths are good, but foam rolling before and after every game as a acute and a chronic neural reset type button, I suppose you will. Should we talk about the emotional stuff now? The emotion of pressure and decisions and things like that?
I got one of the, so I think I might have talked about it the other week, but I love the Tom Ma idea of you are allowed to be grumpy about a loss till midnight.
Amanda wouldn't let me be grumpy till midnight last night, my girlfriend.
What do you mean?
I was pissed. Watched the game, I was pissed, and she's like, "Oh, why are you?" It's like, you don't understand. And she's like, "But we did so well." I was like, "No, we didn't do so well. We were the number one ranked team going into the finals, and then we bummed out in 2 games." She's like, "Oh, what does it matter?" It's like, that's everything.
That's like, that's
what was the
hard.
point of everything? And so,
You get to the
it's like I want to be bummed until tomorrow.
Yeah. So that's a really, really good point. The worst thing you can do is to do that to someone else. Poor form Amanda. But also the worst thing is
should have been watching with Max and Amber.
Is to not process. You have to feel the feelings, process it, move on, and then switch off. And I think having an environment where you're comfortable to do that in the inner sanctum of the team and to be really, really pissed off is good and very important. And also to have to foster an environment within the team that is low. You're talking about the overall exhaustion and the emotional side of things. The great teams, I think, have a nice team dynamic where you're not on all the time.
Yeah.
I think that's a real pitfall, is that the coach can want it so bad, and certain players will want it so bad, and they're just like on all the time.
And
I suspect, I don't know, but I suspect a young Nathan Buckley was a bit like that.
I 100% I say it every second episode, as a Collingwood supporter in the middle of finals, is also got so much going on in September. But yeah, I reckon he overcooked it the first 3 or 4, maybe even 5 years of his coaching career, because he was like, we have to win. Boys, why aren't you doing the extras? Why aren't we in the weight room?
Sometimes you've got to have your downtime. You've got to have your time to just relax. Even watching the game with Max, we're like 3 minutes in, he was really, Dad, I'm really tense. I'm like, we're 3 minutes in, pace yourself. Like,
I only get anxious middle to late third quarter. Is usually when it hits.
You wait till then.
Before that, anything could happen.
Yeah, you just don't know. So, the modern trend is mindfulness training, is just, eat that apple and notice the crunchiness of the apple and just be in the present moment, not in the future, not in the past, just be in that moment.
The quote from the meditation app I'm using at the moment is, sit and know you are sitting.
Which one are you using at the moment?
I'm using 10% Happier, although I'm about to go off it.
Are you?
Yeah, there's not that many episodes in there.
Right, okay.
It's not worth it. The amount of episodes to the cost of the subscription, I've lost. Definitely lost.
Really?
It, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So I think I'm going to go to just a blank timer and just sort of start
do it yourself.
Time it with some gongs and stuff. Yeah.
Nice.
But yeah, it's that idea of just let's just hang out. Let's just and particularly in team situations, just hang out with a non-sporting pressure type sense, like go play mini golf, go watch a movie together, go chill out and sort of
stuff.
unplug a bit from the tournament stress.
I think that's really important. We did that in St. Petersburg at the World Club Championships back with the Rangers. We had a day between games, and our head coach Gary Fox said, "You know what? We're going to go to the museum." And I've forgotten the name of the museum. It's terrible. It's amazing. We saw such an incredible array of art, and it was just this really nice, distracting day, and came back and performed really well the next day. That's going to drive me crazy. Show notes.
I don't think it's going to drive the audience too crazy.
I'll move on.
But yeah, that idea of being able to be on when you need to be on, but then be off when you need to be off. So like having that, and as athletes, I think young athletes and young coaches have this like let's go. Everything is game time. It's like yes, training should be hard, should be focused and deliberate. Game time should be, but in between those, let's be humans. Let's enjoy the process.
The Floyd Mayweather thing where he was totally chilled out, but it was before a really big fight, and he was just like, you know what, I've done all I'm going to do.
It was the Jamie Foxx. I'm pretty sure it was a Jamie Foxx interview on Tim Ferriss. He met Floyd and they were friends, and Floyd got him some tickets to the fight, and he went behind the ring before the fight. It's like one of the early cards was fighting. He goes in there. Floyd, thanks so much for the tickets, appreciate it. Good luck for the fight, blah, blah, blah. Floyd's sitting there watching the NBA. He's got the NBA on the top.
And he's like, I'll get out of your way. I don't want to interrupt.
And he's like, no, hang on. beers over there. And like he's just and Jamie's like, but you've got the fight. And he's like, hey, I've either won or lost by now. It's nothing I can do right now to change that.
Yeah.
And it's like 20 minutes before tip off, before that first bell rings. It's like, what more can you do?
I love that on a couple of levels as well. I'm not a massive fan of Mayweather for a number of other reasons, but from a pure athletic standpoint, that idea of I've either won or lost, like worrying about it's not going to help. Just do your thing. You've prepared yourself, practice your craft, and things will go how they'll go.
Because 20 minutes before the fight, he's so confident he can hit the switch when his name gets called when he goes out there. He knows he got that in him.
He'll be on.
He doesn't have to worry about what happens before that. So just chills, saves his energy.
And part of that's knowing yourself. So some players will learn that they are they're like over aroused in terms of their readiness to play, and they need to actually come down a little bit. Some people will be a little bit up. Like it's just a bit of self-awareness as well.
The inverted U hypothesis. The idea that either if you're too aroused or under aroused, you'll underperform. If you find that sweet spot in the middle. But the thing is, it's different for different contexts, different parts of the game, different individuals and different tactics. So it's not just a one-size-fits-all. Everyone needs to be moderately aroused.
No.
Everyone needs to find their spot that works well for them. So some players play well mad. Like, I'm going to go out there, I'm going to rip your heart out. Like Michael Jordan, as soon as someone sledged him, that was it.
Oh,
game over.
He was looking for people. Like he was actively looking for people. Like he'd be trying to find angles. Oh, you said I can't do this. Like, no, I didn't.
There's a game, I think, where they're down by 15 and I've forgotten who it is. But this player...
Yeah, it's the Reggie Miller game.
Please.
Yeah.
I'm glad someone got out of that story exactly where I was going.
So they're playing a game. Reggie Miller, one of the greatest shooters in the history of the NBA, great shooter, just great basketballer, and they're playing Chicago, and he's on fire.
Reggie plays for the Pacers. Michael plays for Chicago.
Yep. He's just on fire. He's just killing it, and his team is like, say something, do something, like. And he says, and he tells the story well. And in the story, says he hit a shot and he said, "Take that,"
to Michael.
Yeah, I'm sure he didn't say. He wouldn't have said that.
I'm sure it was a little more colourful and creative.
Anyway, but he said something to Michael, and he said it was like he saw him just fill with adrenaline.
It's like Dragon Ball Z when they go Super Saiyan.
Yeah, and he just went on a rampage and they were up like 15 points, closed the lead, completely destroyed them, and they're walking off the court, and he says, "Don't ever talk to me like that again." It's like, that's so cool.
So yeah, he's got that switch.
But he responded really well to that. So yeah, it's knowing where you're at with that kind of stuff.
Whereas other players, to give the opposite of that, some players like to be really calm and composed,
and they'll do better when they're just
calm. And they're centered. They're just this is my job. I got to do this. And having their coach scream at them, or them, the coach like, why aren't you getting mad? It's like, I don't like that. Doesn't help. And because there's a big thing where it's like, if you're not showing any passion on the court, you don't care. It's like, well, no, maybe you're trying to.
Some people have got poker faces.
Some people don't be deliberately.
Jenna A, captain of the Opals, world class poker face. You don't know whether she's just hit a 3 on you or whether she's just kicked the ball out of bounds. Her face will not tell you. Yeah. So, is there anything else? So we've talked. You got to refuel the tank.
Yep.
Maintain the muscle quality by the foam rolling and a bit of stretching. Oh, and by preparing with the activation stuff. But we've talked about that before. So
this episode could be a 10 episode thing. Talk about each pit. What we haven't touched on is sleep. Which is tricky in a tournament situation because you're often not in your own bed. Potentially if you're in a World Cup or Olympics type situation, you might be moving cities or moving towns.
Well, let's touch on that quickly and then we're good. I think the biggest thing is exploiting some form of operant conditioning for yourself. So being able to take a part of your sleeping kit with you, whether it's whether it's sleeping goggles, whether it's packing your own pillow, just doing enough things that it's not a completely foreign environment. I reckon that's really important.
And then trying to stay away from the blue light before bed, trying to eat at your regular times. Something like magnesium is a great option as well before bed.
And meditating. You're going to sleep better if you've been doing a bit of meditating as well.
Or even if that's a bit too woo-woo or your teammates are going to rib you for that too much, just listen to some chilled out music. Bit of Jack Johnson, bit of Bon Iver, something relaxed.
Not Fortnite. Not violent video games.
Oh no, well that comes under blue screens, so definitely no video games.
Well, sometimes people would they'd be like, oh, I wasn't on my phone. I'm like, no, you're on a great big telly.
Well, people play Fortnite on their phones as well. Don't do either of those options. Very bad idea.
All right, I reckon that's pretty good, yeah.
Yeah, nutrition, sleep, rolling and stretching. try and find some emotional release at some point during high tension.
Don't be on all the time. Think about other things. Read some fiction. Just lose yourself in a book. That's actually pretty helpful.
And then like with the poor boomers, sometimes you just when you've got players who are playing 36, 37 minutes a game, and
you're just going to have fatigue.
and then every player's going through and they're getting double teamed, and they're under the pump. Like you could do, they probably did all those things, but it's not.
This is not advice to them. This
isn't like saying, if only they had listened to us.
I'm so glad. This is just general tournament advice that was been a catalyst to think about that. Yeah,
because at that level, and what I watched on when France got their medals, just to like suck it in, be bitter, be angry. And it's like, why are you watching? It's like, no, this is important. It's part of the process. But what happened was France got there, all the players got their medals, and they were all high-fiving and clapping and all this sort of stuff. And then they waved all their support stuff on, and another 20 people got on the dais with them. So there was 12 players, I think, at the World Cup, and they would have had like 5 coaches, 3 physios, a trainer, and all these sort of people, an athlete trainer, all this sort of stuff. And it's like, it's a team game. And so they're lucky enough at that level to have these staff telling them about the things that we've just spoken about and a million other things they're doing as well. But at the lower level, it doesn't take much to really up your professionalism in the tournament setting.
You can 80-20 it with just what we've talked about today, and you can make a really big difference. Yeah, I think that's a good takeaway.
And you might not be more fresh on that last day, but you'll hold on to more of what you started this
tournament. You'll be more fresh than you would have been.
And hopefully more than the opposition who didn't listen to this advice.
Yes. Yeah. So show notes, what do we got?
Talked about the Gator Shake early on. We've got an article talking about how to prepare and how to nail tournaments.
And we've got that one article to kind of rule them all, haven't we? Yeah.
That the one talking about the foam rolling stuff, which is a nice review.
Yeah.
Sorry, you meant that was the...
we've got that tournament article. Yeah.
Yes. That was the one article to rule them all when you talk about tournaments.
Yeah.
And then a great article to rule them all when talking about the effects of foam rolling.
Yes.
2 articles to rule them all.
Very good. All right. Thanks, guys. Awesome. See you soon. And before you go, hear from our alumni about the online mentorship.
I learnt the theory stuff at uni, but I didn't know how to apply it. And coming to Core Advantage was how I bridged that gap. So I knew the stuff, but I didn't know how to do the stuff.
It was something that I needed to do personally for my own development, and it's allowed me to work in elite sport for now 5 years. So it was a massive help.
I think mentorship is really important, and being able to ask questions all the time, and the Core Advantage course allows that because there is a big team of people that you can ask questions.
I get to train professional athletes every week, work really closely with professional athletes, which is awesome. A lot of the skills that I'm applying I learned through the program at Core Advantage.
It's not just something that you read and then think about and then go, how does that tie into everything? It's something that practical that you can turn around and go, this is exactly how I'm going to apply it. And the concepts that you learn help you as a coach, as a professional, as a person. Yeah, it's awesome. Definitely go and do it.
Semester 3 of the mentorship is now open. Apply at coreadvantage.training/mentorship.